Have you ever been catfished? I have. Tell me your story and I'll tell you mine.
Oh, okay. Well, I met this...
Oh, it's talking to this chick online.
Okay.
And she has nothing but headshots.
So this guy, David, goes on to say that they're texting back and forth and he just asks her straight out for a full body photo. And while I don't know that I would be forward enough to do that, I don't necessarily think there's a problem with that request, especially if you're about to meet up with a person in person. He then says...
And I'm like, man, it doesn't quite look like her, but the rest is nice.
What do you mean it doesn't look like her? You didn't know what her body looked like, that's why you were asking to see it. And spoiler alert, in this whole story, he never accuses her of photoshopping her photos, using someone else's photos. So like, how did these pictures not look like her? So the two of them set up a date to meet up at Applebee's. David's plan is to get there early and essentially make an escape plan, just in case she's fat. And I'm being flippant, but that's really the only reason that you would need an escape plan that involves only your sight of the person, no conversation. So clearly, David is already not only suspecting that she is fat, but seeing that potential fatness as a problem. But he also said that he was attracted to the woman in the pictures. And just to circle back to the "it didn't look like her" comment, that seems to imply that either the headshots were old or the full body shot was old, but that one of the categories did involve a current picture. And either way, he saw a picture from both categories and said he was still attracted to her. Later, he says that he believes her to have been about 150 pounds in the pictures she sent him, which, number one, 150 pounds is not fat, but number two, it's certainly not heavy enough to be planning to meet an extra large person. Anyway, David gets there early, but his date is earlier. He keeps seeming annoyed at all of the moves that this woman makes in the story, but they're all moves that he was going to make, she just did it faster. And he's like scoffing or chuckling at the audacity of this woman to show up early and scope him out, but he was gonna do the same thing. So is that a smart thing to do, or is it a terrible thing to do? He says that when he sees her in the restaurant, he doesn't recognize her, but anyone who has online dated can tell you that even if you're given a very detailed picture, a picture is a picture. This is a three-dimensional person. Anyway, according to David, while on the date, the woman was about 250 pounds. And maybe she was, but also guys aren't great at estimating the weight of women. They seem to think that anything over 130 is fat, and someone who's 250 pounds looks like a literal whale. And never mind that 250 looks way different on a woman who's 6 feet tall than a woman who is 5 feet tall. But essentially, David is accusing his date of gaining about 100 pounds since her profile pictures were taken. So let's say she did. Why, David, would a woman who's 250 pounds not feel like she wants to take pictures of herself to put on a dating website? Could it be because if men see those pictures on a dating site, they won't give her the time of day simply because of her size? You know what you don't feel like doing when society is making you feel bad for your weight? Take pictures of yourself. Case in point, my dating profile. I'm very insecure about my weight, so I don't have a lot of full body photos of myself. When I was setting up my dating profile, the most recent full body picture of myself I had was from March. Now, in my opinion, in this photo, you can clearly tell that I am short and most likely plus sized. And I am plus sized, but like, I am wearing like a drapey dress. And yet, I had a man ask to match with me while prominently displaying on his profile that he was into tall, thin women. So if we set up a date and I show up looking like this, did I catfish him? Simply because he prefers tall, thin women? My height is on my profile. Like, can he reasonably claim that he thinks I am tall and thin in this photo? And if he looks at this photo and sees a short, chubby girl, what is he playing at? Because like, weight can change, yeah, but I can't diet or exercise or meditate myself taller. All that to say, just be honest about what you're attracted to. David, if you are attracted to plus-sized queens, good on ya. There are hundreds of thousands of beautiful, fat women who, before this video, might have been willing to give you a chance. You acting throughout this whole video as though you were just doing her a favor. You were being gentlemanly by deigning to eat dinner with this fat woman. It's gross. Especially because you said that after you told us you enjoyed your conversation with her. If that's true, and you were attracted to at least some of her photos, Perhaps you enjoyed the date and ended up finding yourself still attracted to a fat woman.
So I sit down, the very first thing she says to me is, I'm sorry I don't look like what I did in those pictures I sent you.
Yeah, I'm not sure I believe that this happened, but let's pretend it did. As a fat woman, if I walked into a date or saw my date walk into the establishment and watched his face fall when the only thing he has done is looked at me, the first thing I'm going to think is like, oh my god, like maybe I sent older pictures than I thought. And since I'm trying to keep the peace, the first thing I'm gonna do when you get to the table is apologize. Because I'm a woman, and my biggest fear on a date is that you might kill me. Like, I just don't think this is the confession that people are labeling it as.
So I sat down, I was a gentleman the entire time.
You were judging her the entire time. That's not gentlemanly. Then comes, in my opinion, the worst part of the video.
We got up to leave, I gave her a hug. It felt like I was hugging a forklift with an extra large propane tank on the back.
Why? Why go there? Before that comment, this was just a slightly fat-phobic story that could be chalked up to simply preferences. But after he says that he had fun on the date, was a gentleman the whole time, he then has to put the woman's size down. So I wonder, does he do that when he enjoys like a lunch or a dinner date with his mom or a colleague or something? I had a great lunch with mom. When she hugged me, she felt the size of a fridge. Monica's a really nice coworker. When I shake her hand, it feels like a big slab of beef. You wouldn't do that, right? Because you're saying these weight-related things about the woman you went on a date with because you're trying to hurt her. Why are you being mean to a woman when you had a self-admitted good time? Then he starts implying that he never liked her anyway.
I'm like, I gotta think of a way to get rid of this girl.
As if this woman is going to be some kind of lovesick stalker simply because a man who was smaller than her went out on a date with her. Fat people still have preferences, and you being smaller than them might actually not be one of them. But David doesn't seem to realize this because he is shocked when he goes to reject this girl and finds out that she beat him to the thanks but no thanks text.
This bitch already sent me one of those.
That bitch did exactly what I was gonna do. Seriously, why wouldn't she have? You spent the date being weird as fuck. Of course she doesn't want a second date with someone who expressed nonverbal disgust about how she looks.
Whew. That actually went a lot easier than expected.
My dude, you got rejected. And stop acting like you went on this date because there was a gun to your head. You saw and were attracted to pictures of her at 2 noticeably different weights. And even if she had put on 100 more pounds after those pictures were taken, you stayed and you had a good time according to you. So why are you making this out to be a bad experience? I'm sure she'd be willing to Venmo you for her margarita and her nachos or whatever. So you went on a date and you found out this woman wasn't your type. Okay, that's gonna happen with thin women too, because a woman being thin doesn't automatically make her a good match for you. And if you're attracted to fat girls but only want to publicly date a thin woman, that is something you need to examine within yourself. Just like that guy who insisted he wanted a tall, thin woman but then requested to match with a short, fat girl, you need to figure out whether you're willing to date people you're actually into, or only date conventionally attractive people that you might not be attracted to. You're only denying your own happiness if you're into fat women but you refuse to date them. Bottom line, this guy and most people on dating apps are always griping about people not posting accurate pictures. Then they insult the accurate body that is shown in those pictures and say, well, who would be attracted to that? So what do you want?